It was another day of intense intrigues and exchange between Niger Delta Minister and the members of the House of Representatives investigating spendings at the NDDC. An investigative panel has entered day 4. And today, the All Progressives Congress APC in Ondo State holds its governorship primary election to determine who will fly the party's flag ahead of the October exercise. Hello everyone and welcome to the program. This is Politics Today live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimbaloye in Lagos. Today that you need to listen carefully. Put on the volume of your TV set if it's not at a very comfortable volume, because you need to get all the sides to the matter which we'll be discussing tonight. Some people will say we perhaps started the conversation right here on this program, so let's get it and move it forward. It's about the issues of the Niger Delta Development Commission, the NDDC, and what happened today at the public hearing. Well, it's day 4 of that hearing in the House. Well, let's tell you about some other stories before we dig into that matter tonight, because I brought for you tonight experienced people to dissect the matter for you. So, first and foremost, it's decision day for the All Progressives Congress APC in Ondo State, as delegates from the 18 local government areas of Ondo State will determine who will be the party flag bearer in the October 2020 governorship election. The exercise has since been underway, although started behind schedule, as some candidates called for a postponement of the exercise. Several candidates pulled out from the race at the last minute. Ifeoluwa Oyedele had withdrew from the race yesterday, declaring his support for Governor Akeredolu, while Mr. Olusegun Abraham also stepped down from the race. It's a fast-paced program, and what a day. We do not have so much time, so let's check out for you some political stories we have for you on our political roundup.
President Muhammadu Buhari today met with the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai, who briefed the president on the security situation in the country. And after the meeting, General Buratai says 90% of kidnappers, bandits, and armed robbers are Nigerians, and is calling on citizens to share information on criminals with security personnel. General Buratai today met with President Muhammadu Buhari at the presidential villa. He told State House correspondents that the military needs civilian involvement if an end to insecurity is to be achieved.
From foreign land.
The All Progressives Congress, APC, Edo State is accusing the governor, Godwin Obaseki-led administration, and the People's Democratic Party of raising an army of criminal thugs and cult groups in order to cause violence and undermine the upcoming September 19th Edo governorship election.
Governor Godwin Obaseki has ensured there is a spirit of competition ignited in these confraternity groups. Obaseki draws from this deep well of violence and brutality in these groups, hoping to employ their brutish and bestial tendencies and unleash it on his opponents.
The Edo State government has, however, refuted the allegations and have come forward with the counter-allegation that the APC is beating the drums of war.
I'm sure the whole state and everybody in Nigeria is aware of the rancorous behavior, rancousness that went around APC during their preparation for their primaries.
The former national chairman of the APC, Comrade Adams Oshomole, has vowed that no one can force him out of the APC, which was a founding member of. Mr. Oshomole said this during a reception organized for him by his kinsmen and supporters at his country home in Esako West local government area of Edo State.
I have made my honest mistakes, and I've made my honest poor judgment.
Thank you so much, everyone. Get on board with me. I'm driving you straight to the heart of the Niger Delta. And some of the things that you are hearing on your TV set might not be pleasant to the ears, but then you have to hear them so that we can move forward. So, first and foremost, we head to London, and it's about the NDDC too. after Channels Television's interview with some students on NDDC scholarship abroad who complained about the neglect by the commission in paying their tuition. Some of them have today taken to the street of London. They went to the Nigeria House in London to stage a protest. The students are seen carrying placards showing their grievances about the state of their welfare since leaving Nigeria to study abroad. The students wrote an open letter to President Muhammadu Buhari, a letter which they titled "Save Our Souls." Copying the leadership of the National Assembly, the students are complaining about neglect by the NDDC. They lament that they've been stranded abroad.
We are here today to call on the NDDC and to ask the President, His Excellency Muhammadu Buhari, to prevail on NDDC, to prevail on the CBN, to pay us our tuition fee and our upkeep, so that we can concentrate on the task of learning.
You heard him there, and I hope that perhaps the president and every other person needed to take an action on this matter, which also came up today at a hearing. We come to the head of these people. So let's get to the conversation of tonight, everyone. It was a day many Nigerians perhaps held their breaths in awe of the incident which happened at a resumed public hearing of the House of Representatives investigating the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC. The Minister of Niger Delta, Godswill Akpabio, was present alongside the acting managing director of the NDDC, Professor Daniel Ponde. It started with the chairman of the House of Representatives Committee investigating the issue, Honorable Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, recusing himself from the day's investigating hearing after he's being accused of being an interested party in the issue. Take a listen to him.
I wish to clearly appeal to my colleagues. Though you passed a vote of confidence on me, the leadership passed a vote of confidence on my personality as the chairman of this committee. For the sake for Nigerians to know, I'm not on a mission of vengeance. I wish to humbly appeal to my colleagues to recuse me from presiding over this particular meeting. I hope this will give all parties opportunity to present their facts in the interest of the people of the Niger Delta. Honorable colleagues, I plead with you. I know it's going to be painful to most of you, but the right thing must be done in the interest of our nation.
Honorable Tunji-Ojo recusing himself from that hearing. So after that, the acting managing director of the commission, Professor Daniel Ponde, slumped during that session when they were engaging him in a question and answer and was taken out for medical attention. So for about an hour or so, the public hearing was stalled and it resumed again. This time around, the Speaker of the House and the Leader of the House came and for them to restart the process. So afterwards, fresh revelations are now coming out as the lawmakers engaged the Minister of Niger Delta Affairs, Godswill Akpabio, who alleges that most of the developmental projects in the region were actually awarded to members of the National Assembly. Take a listen to him.
We cannot close down Niger Delta because of the security implications of the region. Sorry, sir. We cannot close down Niger Delta Development Commission because of the fact that we are doing forensic audit. The NDDC plays a vital role in ensuring the peace and security of the region. And 90% or more of the resources of the country on a monthly basis comes from there. If you close it down in totality, all you have will be chaos. And you have a lot of, not just militancy, but you have a lot of insurrection. So it is important that people who have gone to court, people who genuinely did jobs, should be paid for their jobs. So for me, I'm not against it because, of course, who are even the greatest beneficiaries? It's you people now.
Okay.
Because if you look at your chairman,
Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister, that's okay. That's okay.
No,
can I ask you that question? What is the benefit that the National Assembly is benefiting from?
It's okay, it's okay.
Are you asking me the benefit of National Assembly?
Yes, you just said.
I just told you that we have record to show that most of the contracts in NDDC are given out to members of National Assembly, but you don't know about it.
It's okay. It's okay.
It's okay.
You can call it can of worms. Tonight, we dissect it and give you a sense of what this all means altogether. Let's get talking quickly, everyone. We have a former member of the House of Representatives to give us his benefit of experience. Honorable Bimbo Daramala joins us from our Abuja studio, and a seasoned lawyer here in Nigeria, practicing in Lagos, Mr. GT Ogunye joins us here in the studio. What a day. You are from the Niger Delta region of the country, Mr. Ogunye. Let me begin with you today. What is your immediate reaction? Because I'm going to ask Honorable Daramala also, for Nigeria, this kind of public hearing, how does this come to you?
Well, it just shows that for the larger part of the 20 years or 21 odd years we've been having democracy in this country, it just shows that this is us. This is who we are.
What do you mean by that?
Democracy has not yielded the dividend that our people thought it would yield during the military era, when they were so enamored of having the democratic arrangement in place. Many people even thought that once we had civil rule, then every other thing would be added onto it and that Nigerians would live a better life. But what we've had is that, having changed away the military, the country has raised new set of plutocrats, of political merchants, of those who game the system, who believe in prebendal politics, and who just go to public office to loot resources. When you hear some of these things, you get so sad. And let me be very clear. The fact that we're having this probe, so to speak, this hearing, indicates clearly that the rule of law has not been allowed to operate. And it may sound arcane. What was this rule of law that lawyers talked about? If you look at the NDDC Act, at every level, there should be accountability. Under the financial provisions, for example, the president of the country should be having quarterly reports on all the activities and operations of the Niger Delta. It should be having an annual report by the 30th of June of every year. The audited report and the report of the auditors ought to be submitted to the president every year.
So as we're speaking, the president should have had at least 2 reports this year alone.
Thirdly, there's a provision that apart from the management of the NDDC, there should be a supervisory committee, a monitoring committee set up by the president from the public service, who will have access to all the books of the commission. So, in other words, if these bodies are working, if these processes built into that legislation are working, we may not even be having a problem. Because what we then have at the end of the day is that these processes will have yielded those who are criminals, who are culprits, and then they will be handed over to the anti-corruption agencies to prosecute. In other words, what we'll be having will be serial prosecutions of thieves in that commission and their collaborators, not this hearing in the National Assembly. And by the way, at the end of the day, what will the hearing yield? A robust resolution at best. But again, you also have some of the members now recusing themselves and all that. So with that resolution...
But it could be subjected to judicial review, isn't it?
Yes, but that resolution by itself will not lead to prosecution and bring it to justice those who must have, looted the
So are you saying
treasury
this is
and
an
all
effort
that.
in futility?
Look, let our institutions work. I'm not saying that under Section 88 of the Constitution and 89, the National Assembly has the power of investigation. They are acting rightly, and they should continue to do that. But I'm saying that those provisions, these have been my extant position. Those provisions were lifted from the 1979 Constitution, which predated the emergence of the specialized anti-corruption agencies, namely ICPC and EFCC. Now that those agencies have come, regardless of the fact that those provisions are there, the provisions that govern the power of investigation of the National Assembly, this body should be the one driving the anti-corruption movement inside those bodies.
Mr. Ogunye,
That's the point.
there is so much more. The chairman recusing himself, the outcome of this year, and the allegation of the minister against the lawmakers. These are some of the perspectives that we are going to be sharing tonight on the program. Don't go away. We still have Honorable Daramala in our Abuja studio to get his experience being in the National Assembly. Join us again, everyone. Thank you so much, everyone. Let's get back to the conversation. Mr. G.T. Ogunye, a lawyer here, and Honorable Bimbo Daramala, a former member of the House of Representatives in our Abuja studio. Honorable, let's get you into this conversation. For what we saw today, we saw Honorable Tunji Ojo recusing himself. In the case of Anumote and Honorable Embe, that did not happen. What's your reaction to that move by that member of the by that lawmaker?
Well, Sean, let me thank you very much for the opportunity to come to your program again. Thanks for the invitation. Two things I'm going to quickly say. Number one, when it rains, it pours. That's number one. Number two, every nation and individuals would eventually be defined indeed by the values that they espouse and they subscribe to. Now, what we've seen today, for me, it's a very sad reflection, a very sad spectacle. But let me also quickly, before I deal with the question, I disagree with Mr. Ogunye to the extent that he says democracy is not at work. What we've seen today actually is democracy at work. To what extent are we going to go deny yards? That may be the question to begin to interrogate. But the truth of the matter is that under democracy, an arm of government, the parliament, has done what is constitutionally provided and has done that well. And that leads me into the decision of Honorable Bumi Ojo to recuse himself from that committee. I was in the parliament for 4 years, and then I also served as chief of staff there. And I know that the proper thing to do was last week when this whole thing started, and Mr. Ponde, or Professor Ponde, excuse me, decided to storm out of that hearing and turn his back with his team. I said to myself that these allegations are weighty enough, and if this committee is going to have a shred of integrity, as the parliament should, to be able to arbitrate in circumstances like this, he must stand down. And I'm happy today that the first thing he did was to stand down. Indeed, the case you mentioned, the now governor of Sokoto State intervened in that matter with Aruma Ote and my brother and friend, Aman Hembe. And Embe eventually had to stand down, and then we were drafted into that committee. And in the 4 years that I was in the parliament, I headed one of those, and then I was a member of one. One of them is the one that you just cited now. Now, I can safely say two things today, that one, Honorable Bumi Ojo walked the path of integrity, and then the parliament also, the decision of leadership and all of that, also to have allowed him to stand down, because the whole thing will have been distracted. I mean, it will have resorted to, oh yes, you did this, like the minister tried to do. Oh yes, you did this, you collected that, and all of that, and that will have taken us and taken our eyes away from the meat of the matter. But today, for Honorable Bumi Ojo, a young parliamentarian, to have decided to do that with the consent of his committee, I believe is the right thing to do. And today, you will see that did not distract anybody They went straight for the jugular, and the jury is out there now.
But Mr. Ogunye, from what we've seen today, the allegation coming from the minister of Niger Delta, that look, most of the contract are coming from being gotten by the lawmakers. What do you make of that? Because the allegations are against the minister and the members of the board of the IMC, of the NDDC, but they've thrown it back to them that you are beneficiaries also.
Nobody is denying that seriously, apart from the honorable member, the lady who took the minister up. It's generally known that that's what happens, that the NDDC has become a place where a festival, permit my literary license, festival, not festival, has been taking place. People go there literally to feast on the resources of that organization. And so I would expect the leadership of the National Assembly tomorrow, for example, to issue a statement, a task statement, that we're saying that in this National Assembly and the preceding ones, we are not aware that members of the National Assembly are taking contracts from the NDDC, which is a conflict of interest and against the code of conduct, that we have in the Constitution. These are grave allegations, but these allegations again confirm what Nigerians have always suspected, that those who take it upon themselves to rule us, largely, some of them, if not all, suffer from the deficit of integrity. Integrity is a very powerful word. It's a very powerful word. Each time this thing comes up, the impression Nigerians have is that they are being treated to a circus. For example, today, and that's not even the substance of the matter, the former acting MD of the NDDC, who was so, physiologically speaking, I'm not a medical doctor, strong last week, that he stormed out of the venue of the hearing, certainly must have had a kind of degeneration in his physiology to such an extent that today he slumped and was carried out of the place. Whether it was that or that the intensity of the questions was so overwhelming that it caused a kind of problem for him, so that his sitting integrity, had to collapse. He couldn't sit for such a long time, and then he had to be taken to the hospital. The impressions Nigerians have when they see this, when they see those who have been taken through trial in our courts, collapsing, using stretchers, using, walking stick, using neck collar, and things like that. The impression that they have is that we're not a serious people, and that the rule of law is not working. I returned to that again. So when you see this, members of the National Assembly can, trumpet their integrity. Ex-members, out of solidarity, can also harp on the integrity of the process. But the impression that you have
quickly, Mr. Ogunye, you mentioned something. I need to go to Honorable Daramola now, but just in a statement, you said the president should be, according to the Constitution, on a consistent and constant, regular...
According to that
act. Now, it behoves on the presidency, isn't it? That's what you've dragged the presidency into this matter.
It's not just an NDDC matter alone. The president is given enormous powers under that
so
act.
Things shouldn't have degenerated into this?
Exactly. If you are having a quarterly report and there is a committee in the presidency that looks at that.
All right.
What I'm saying is that all these problems will have been nipped in. And I'm not just talking about this president alone. I'm talking about previous presidents.
In the last 20 years.
If the attitude is not that this NDDC is there for us to just settle people and then ensure
Let me bring in Honorable Daramala.
If it's for serious business, those provisions ought to be alive to ensure that there's accountability and probity at all times.
So let's look at this critically, Mr. G.T. Ogunye and Honorable Daramala. Honorable Daramala, come back into the conversation, please. When you were in the National Assembly, we heard about the power probe. There was a probe on the SEC during when Mrs. Aramote was there. Also, there was also a probe on subsidy spending in Nigeria. But the question a lot of Nigerians who have followed all of these processes will be asking is that what have become of those probes? Is this NDDC probe going to go in that manner also?
Well, Sean, let me make this clear to you. The Parliament will forever remain the whipping boy, or the whipping institution or organ of government, most likely in environments like ours. And this is not, Mr. Ogunye referred to this being an esprit de corps. This is not. I'm not too sure there's anybody that will be able to allege that when I was there, I benefited from malfeasance. That's number one. Number two, and there are a number of people out there in the Parliament before and after me who also would have such credentials. But let's make this abundantly clear. We have the executive, we have the judiciary, and we have the legislature. The only arm of government that is directly in the face of the people is the Parliament, is the legislature. That's the only arm of government that everybody has opportunity to question and then interrogate in the sense and the manner in which we have. Let me make a quick example out of what we have seen today. Now, allegations are flying around that 80 billion has been spent, 40 billion has been spent, and all of that. Do you, for heaven's sake, care about how much has been spent by the judiciary? Do you know? And this is not defeatist. This is not trying to, or escapist rather. This is not escapist. This is trying to just situate in the appropriate context. Now, Section 88(2)(b, as quoted by Barrister Ogunye, just defines the mandate of the Parliament. You understand that investigations like that will give you opportunity to curb waste, corruption, and abuses. And to that extent, the Parliament will have discharged the honors and the responsibility. And
of time, gentlemen, Honorable Daramala, I must sincerely thank you and Mr. G.T. Ogunye for your time tonight. Thank you so much, Mr. G.T. Ogunye, for coming on. Honorable Daramala, thank you so much for coming tonight. That's our show for tonight, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm sure Kimberly.